What is the dumbest thing you did because you were horny? Story 1. In my senior year of high school, I was supposed to take AP tests all day. It would have looked good for college. Well, all the other grades had the day off, and my boyfriend was a year younger, thus being a grade below me. He picked me up to take me to school, and since his mom worked all day, we went right to his house since we couldn't do mine because my parents worked from home. It went great until his mom came home to check on him. So he basically shoved me into his closet. It wouldn't have been a problem, except it wasn't even like a full closet. It was half the size of standard closets. She left and then decided to come back and bring him lunch. I was in that closet for over 2 hours and my phone was at 10% when I first crawled in there. I ended up just sitting in the dark for about 45 minutes of it. Anyway, our wedding is in a few months. Story 2. Dyed my hair black. My roommate was doing it, and the girl helping him was redonkulously hot. She came into the living room and told me, "We have some extra dye. I think you would look hot with black hair." I looked at her in that lime green tube top and said, "That sounds like a great idea." I found out I was allergic to hair dye when 3 days later, my head swelled up, and I looked like that orc general that attacked Minas Tirith in Return of the King with a full head of Elvis black hair. It took a whole month of medication for it to go away, as my head was bright red under the hair and secreting a fluid that made my hair hard as a rock. Fun times. Story 3. I was dating a girl at work and we would regularly have sex at her side of our business complex. Though she was part of the same company, she was part of a separate regional division and not part of corporate, so her office was typically always empty besides her. One time we were really hot and heavy into it inside the restroom, and against our better judgment, we decided anal was a good idea. So we did our thing, and I blew the biggest, deepest load into her ass imaginable. As I pulled out, there was a fair amount of poop on my dick, surprise anal and all, and I walk over to the sink to try and wash it off. As I'm rinsing myself into the sink, we hear the door to her office open and a large group of coworkers walk in. I panic and immediately try to put my dick away, and as I drop from my tipped toes, I slam my nutsack up against the wall of the sink and pull my taint skin so hard I almost buckled in pain. She runs out of the restroom and closes the door behind her, and I'm sitting in the dark on the toilet seat with shit on my dick and balls hurting contemplating my life choices. Story 4. I had intense sex with someone after not sleeping the previous night and not having enough water or eating anything the entire day, and fainted right after. I was incredibly stressed and focused on work all night and day before she got to my apartment. We originally had planned to get me some food and water first, but somehow ended up talking in depth about our weird, ambiguous relationship and our feelings, which got really emotional, and that led to sex. Despite my exhaustion, I found a hidden well of energy within myself and went at it really hard. It was honestly great, much better than I expected given my state. But afterward, when she was actually going to order food, I went to the bathroom to wash up and suddenly realized I felt nauseous. No matter how hungry I had been a moment prior, the thought of eating was now repulsive, unthinkable. I became very hot and started sweating, felt weak and shaky. I tried to leave the bathroom and called out to her for help. I woke up on the bathroom floor 10-15 seconds later by her count. I apparently collapsed and briefly lost consciousness, and she claims she tried to catch me but couldn't reach in time. I'm lucky I didn't seriously injure myself on one of the hard edges in there. Just hurt my shoulder a little. Story 5. When I was a kid, my dad would frequently take me to his job and give me meaningless tasks to help him out. He was a property manager for a secure gov building, federal guards at the doors, etc. Anyways, he had his office in the basement and was left alone down there by everyone else in the building. He would smoke cigarettes down there, blast music, etc. When I was 13, I went with him to work one day, and he gave me the job of using an electric sander to take grime off of copper pipes in one of the machine rooms. I was left alone to my task for hours, and about an hour in, I realized how incredibly powerful the vibration was on the sander. One thing led to another, and I ended up grinding the handle of the sander on my dick. After I finished, I remember even at 13 saying to myself, "You're really weird, dude." Never told anyone, till now. Story 7. I went to a clothing-optional beach once, expecting to see a lot of topless sunbathing. Instead, I learned the hard way that it's populated by wrinkly old men with big bellies and small dicks. I thought maybe all the ladies are hiding further up the beach where the bushes can cover them from all the stairs. Turns out that's where the old men suck each other off. Story 8. Drove 4 hours to the beach to camp with a fuck buddy of mine. He stood me up and ghosted me. The icing on the cake was losing my keys in the sand and having to pay $300 for a new set to be cut. Edit, yes, my new key really cost that much. It was a 16 Jeep, and those stupid little chips are needed to make your key actually turn over the engine. So all of that was the cost of the key, programming the key, and the labor for the locksmith. I had about a mile stretch where I lost them, so I'm not sure how handy a metal detector would have been. I definitely wouldn't have been opposed to using one, though, if I had one handy. Story 9. Underage. Many years ago, me and my current wife were very little horny people. We used to go have sex under this highway underpass a little off the beaten path because our parents were always home. Well, it was also near a community center type building. One day when we were walking through the woods to get there, someone thought they seen a man abducting a child. My wife has always been very short. Yes, it was me. We are the same age, just have a crazy height difference. And I have had a beard from a young age, haha. Anyways, long story long, I was getting a BJ and a cop came down to the underpass from the highway up above and yelled, "Freeze!" Let me tell you, we both froze. She wouldn't move and had her face covered with my dick still in her mouth. Then the cop just yelled at us saying, "Can't you guys be doing this at home?" Said he could see I wasn't underage and told us about the call. It was the most embarrassing thing to ever happen. We didn't even bring it up again for a few years. Now we are married, and it is a funny memory. We even went back there to mess around a year ago. Story 10. Several years back, a woman I had been flirting with called me in the middle of the night one time, BC. She wasn't feeling well and asked if I could pick up some medicine and bring it to her place. Went to her place not expecting too much other than maybe earning some brownie points for dropping off the meds. Anyway, she invites me in and asks if I could spend the night with her. That, of course, gets me all titillated. However, by the time we get into bed, she's all tired and drowsy, despite her best attempt at acting seductive. Next thing I know, I'm lying in bed next to her with my arm pinned under her body while she's snoring away and farting. I end up lying like that for the rest of the night. Got maybe 30 minutes of sleep that entire night, and of course I then had to get up to work a whole shift in the morning. At least I did earn some brownie points for that BC. We ended up dating for not quite a year afterwards. Story 11. I accidentally locked my girlfriend and I outside her family's cabin while we were naked with 3 feet of snow around us. We were going skinny dipping in their hot tub and forgot to bring our clothes outside with us. So I had to run about 100 feet buck naked through 3 feet of snow to get back in the front door. Story 12. Let a chick I was dating move in after only 3 months of being together. Found out 2 months later that she was having another guy over while I was working nights. Confronted her about it, and she proceeded to squat, refused to leave, in my apartment for nearly 6 months due to laws not allowing me to remove her on my own. Ended up having to take her to court to finally get her out. Story 13. I was helping my dad close up the sailboat for the winter. We took the seat cushions out, and the long ones had to go in the car between us, kind of stacked up like a wall so we could only see each other's heads. Teenage hormones kicked in on the hour ride home, and I proceeded to rub one out while looking out the window. Many moons later, I told my brothers, who then proceeded to tell my dad, "I always wondered why you were so quiet on that trip." Story 14, connected with a friend's ex who I knew had feelings for me. Went to catch up over lunch, ended up spending all day drinking with her, then fingered her at the outdoor area of an absolutely packed bar. Neither of us were staying in places we could have people spend the night, so hired a late hotel room, plural. Get in the door, she immediately vomits all over the room and spent the next 2 hours crying on the floor saying she loved me while I did my best to clean up. Whoops. Story 15. Decided to masturbate into a urinal because I was bored and horny studying for finals when I was in college. I studied in an empty classroom in the creepiest old building on campus so that I could be completely focused and not be distracted. I hadn't seen anybody in that building for 3 hours, so I didn't feel the need to lock the bathroom door or do my business in a stall like a normal person. So I'm going to town on myself and suddenly the bathroom door opens and I stop mid-fap. Foreskin noises stop suddenly. I just stood there holding my erect penis for a second, put it back in, and leave without making eye contact. Still have no idea who that person was, but they definitely knew what I was doing and that I'm fucking weird. Story 16. I had it so bad for this Chinese girl at university back in 2004, and she would not give me the time of day. I did everything I possibly could. Then, in a moment of insane desperation and browsing shit during the earlier days of the internet, I found some sort of self-proclaimed wizard living in California who specialized in love spells, and I shit you not, my 20-year-old brain thought it was a good idea to send said wizard 200 USD to cast the spell. Suffice it to say the spell did not work. To this day, I still can't believe how stupid I was. Male hormones are ridiculous things. Story 17. After she called me on the old landline, I crawled up into the bathroom window of a neighbor girl who was in her parents' bedroom's bathroom. She was getting ready to take a shower, so I joined her. Her dad was on the other side of the door, watching TV in his bed. Ah, the mid-70s. Story 18. Jerked off with some heated lotion like icy hot. Dick burned so bad for days. Also jacked off in the bath once, not thinking because I was a dumb kid. Got done and it was stuck to my whole body and was crusty like an old gym sock. Also wore a shirt to school I had whacked off on and didn't notice that my baby sauce was all over it. That actually happened twice. I was a dirty teenager, I guess. Story 19. Drove from Kentucky to Illinois to meet an AOL girl I cybered with. Slept in the back of my pickup truck in front of her house because I did not think about how her parents would react to that creepy bullshit. Her dad took her on a long drive the next day to pick up furniture or something. I hid in the neighborhood and did not realize it was the alternate entrance to the neighborhood. So when she told her dad I was gone, they drove right by me while I was reading a book in the front seat, and we never got together because he protected her. Good dad, sad teenager. So then I drove from there to New Jersey for the same reason and still got nothing. Meanwhile, at that second friend's house, I was AOL IMing other girls back home in Nevada, and one pretended to be a French girl with a crush on me, and I angrily outed her for being fake because it did not occur to me she was just being flirty and playing a weird little nervous energy game. Turned out she wanted to lose her virginity with me, according to her friend, but now she thinks I'm an asshole. So I was 0 for 3. Oh boy, being 17 was a confusing time. Story 20. I was freshly out of a relationship with my abusive ex, and I just wanted the first sex after him to not mean anything and not be with anyone important, nor anyone I'd meet again. So I went on this anonymous dating site for hookups local to my region and just went with the first to the best person. Off I went to the capital without telling anyone at all where I was going or with whom. We met at a station in the outskirts of a suburb. I got into his car and he took me to a parking lot close to the airport. We had sex in the back where he had folded down his back seat, and then he drove me back to the main train station. I did some shopping for new underwear, went to a toilet and changed into fresh underwear. Freshened up and then took the train back to arrive at church in time for rehearsal in my church choir. I don't know his name or anything. Couldn't pick him out of a lineup. Super dangerous. I could have been abducted or killed. Story 21. Got my dick stuck inside a toilet paper roll once. I was a teenager and horny, and so I thought if I stuck it in and let it get hard, it would somehow be pleasurable. Well, it got hard, but when it did, it was too tight to do anything and started to hurt. So I freaked out trying to figure out how to get it off. It took way too long to occur to me that I could just tear the cardboard roll. Story 22. When I was a teenager, I stuck my hands up an incredibly attractive girl's shirt that I really wanted to bone, with her permission, and felt her boobies, nipples and everything. It was fucking intense. Then afterwards, I peeped down her shirt to see her boobs. I hadn't seen many real-life titties at that point. The problem? It was in the middle of high school, in the middle of the hall, around everyone in the hall, including teachers. We did not get caught, but came damn close to it. I was a fucking idiot for not asking her if we could go somewhere more private for this, but I wanted to see her titties so fucking badly. I didn't even think of the consequences. I then proceeded to go to the bathroom to masturbate incessantly because I couldn't have sex with her. She wouldn't want it anyway. She let me see her titties, but she didn't want to fuck me. Story 23. Spam drunk text to high school ex. 2 of them respond. Zipping on Adderall and Sam Adams, I went to the first girl's mobile home. I remember her being about 30 lbs heavier and had a cute anklet. And the bathroom, where the last thing I remember was running to it wrapped in her grandma's knitted blanket. Naked, I dropped the blanket and I puked. I know I was shitting at the same time I was puking. A lot of shit. I woke up the next morning at girl number two's home in her basement by her husband asking if I wanted to go to Carl's Jr. He was amused by my drunk text to his wife. No harm, but I apologized. His wife told him that she texted back asking if I needed a ride, and I took that as an invite LOL. They found me about a half-mile away from Waffle House and scooped me up, poop and barf covered, rinsed me and changed me, then put me on the couch. However, when I found my phone, it was loaded with messages from girl one, mostly going berserk over the shit all over her grandma's blanket, puke on the counters, and a mixture of both covering the wall just under the window that was hanging open. Ha, that was shamefully dumb. Story 24. I used to have sex with my high school GF in her room near Daly, and she had no working locks. It was always a game of roulette if someone walked in. Her mom came in one time while we were buck naked going at it, and she just screamed her name and stormed out. Did that stop us? No, we still continued taking that risk. One time we were under the covers doing it, and her grandma walked in as I was on the vinegar strokes. My GF jumped off quick enough to where she didn't know what was going on, but I was already at the point of no return. So I'm looking her grandma in the eyes while continuing to stroke my penis and ejaculating under the sheets trying to keep a straight face. It actually worked and she had no idea. The only time I was ever able to orgasm with a completely straight face. Story 25. I drove 4 hours to have sex once. I took my company van and I used their gas card. I've flown to different countries numerous times to have sex with women I met from Tinder and had a decent connection with. When I was 16, I bought a small ladder to climb into my girlfriend's window, which she lived about 1.5 miles away, so carrying a ladder at 12 a.m. probably wasn't the brightest of ideas, but I guess it's the memories that count.